Again, most likely a placeholder, so don't worry about that. Shrink this to like a 5.5. Origin, just set it in the middle, just in case. So now I have a tiny little bullet that you can barely see, and it's actually not named yet. We're going to call this player bullet. Let's call it 1. Let's just say in the future we probably have a expectation that we'll add more. Let's add a behavior to the player bullet. That's going to be a bullet, obviously. Now I just know from experience the speed we're probably going to adjust down to 200. I may be wrong, but we'll see. Set angle, off the top of my head, not sure if we need that to the angle of motion, because if we're turning left or right, that'll help. Off the top of my head, I can't remember if we'll want that to work. So let's make an event to trigger this bullet. Left click player. Let's do player overlay. Is going to spawn another object. And it's going to spawn the player bullet. Layer 1 image point, we're going to call it 1 for now and revisit that. So on left click, the player overlay is going to spawn a player 1 bullet, which has the bullet behavior and all that good stuff. Let me go back to the player overlay, and you'll notice I added image point 1, which I don't have right now. So I'm going to add image point 1. If you remember, there we go again. The origin's in the middle for the most part. So I'm going to add image layer 1, image point 1, sorry. And it starts off in the middle, but you can click it wherever you want, and it is going to change that. For now, I'm just going to make it right here. And you can make that kind of easy by just right-clicking, quick assign to the right. This doesn't really play well with our animation because he's not shooting, and we do have shooting animations. I'm just not going to add that right now. I want to get the bullet in, the trigger in, and move on. And then we can add the other stuff later. So you'll notice we have the origin and image point to this frame. However, once we get into these other frames, it disappears. Now that's going to be a problem, because what if we fire it and it's in the middle of one of these frames? It's going to try to probably spawn from here and look all funky. So one thing you do, right click the image point, apply to the entire animation, and you'll see it's now applied. Now if you applied to all animations, then it would do that, and we actually probably will need to do that, because what if he's firing when he's idle? What if he's firing when he's running? What if he's firing when he's jumping? So click here and you notice everything disappears. So let me go back in here, right click, apply to all animations. Yes. And you'll notice we should have everything here. Perfect. That can be dangerous because you can mess, if you do it, depending on what you're doing, you can mess, your animations up. And starting over or having to start from a save or undo can be kind of tedious. So we have our image point 1. It's going to spawn on layer 1, which is the game layer number 1. So that's great. Let's go step by step. Okay, so boom. I am moving boom left to right. Left click, left click, left click, and we have our thingamajigs. Now you'll notice that I'm moving left and it's still spawning right. So it looks like that set angle of motion doesn't really work. Set the object angle, the angle of motion. So that would be more visible if we had something that you could tell which angle it's going once we actually add a bullet. you'd be able to see, you know, the angle changes, whether or not it's going 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 360 degrees, you know, 270 or what. I could say if mirrored. Hold on, let me try that. Add another condition. Is mirrored. There we go. Okay, so when it basically the mirroring is going to make them turn left. So I'm gonna make two different things. Is not mirrored. That's going to be the basic thing. If he is mirrored, we are actually going to make the player bullet change to set the angle of motion to, I want to say we're going 180 degrees by, I'm pretty sure, nah, I could be wrong. I don't want to mention that possibility. I could be wrong. Perfect. So now that he's mirrored, everything's going 180 degrees, which is that way. 0 degrees is this way. Everything's looking pretty good. Not too bad. Alright, so the bullet we could probably have be faster. Looks like I spoke a little too soon. Cool, we got that now. One thing I like to design is because if you have a bullet, well, think about this. Let me show you something. Take a look at the object count. Okay? All these bullets that I'm firing. Now, as these objects increase and increase and increase, all of your statistics are going to go up in regards to, I could be wrong, but they will be affected eventually by the number of objects you have. Because it'll eventually get out of hand. The main point of this is all these bullets are off the screen and not important, but they're still hanging around in the game. So there's a couple ways you can get around that. That will be a performance issue for you eventually when you actually build a lot of objects on the screen. Remember, we only have the player and the bullet and some background stuff right now. Imagine if you have a bunch of enemies. Imagine if your layout is huge and you also have a bunch of enemies. All that kind of good stuff. The most basic way you can do this, player bullet. Is outside of layout. Player bullet. Destroy. And I'll show you that works. Oh, this is bad. Well, it's not the best example because if you remember, this layout is kind of long, so it took a while for those to shrink back down to 27. Over here it's much shorter, so you can see it keeps itself in check more. Now, what I like to do when I have some sort of gun behavior, most of the time, let's go and just copy this. I'm going to delete this. I compare distance traveled. Once it goes over 100 pixels, it's going to destroy itself. Let's see how that works. You'll see that destroys itself rather quickly. That's a little too short. And this will actually regulate your object count even more. That's not too bad. Plus you don't, well, I mean, a bullet does fly pretty far in real life, but it also has a degradation, which it will eventually, you know, decrease in angle and all that good stuff. So we'll keep with that. We'll stick with that right now. So that means that this basically becomes obsolete. Yeah, we don't really need that. Alright, so we got our bullet. We have our bullet. We're going to add an enemy. Let me pause really quick. Okay, sorry about that. Let's just add an enemy really quick. We're in the game layer. Perfect. This is just going to be a placeholder again. Let's make them green for some reason. Bright green. Don't even need to do that really. Can make them kind of the player size. Let's make sure the origin's looking good.